All right, this is Jeff again here at 10507 Northeast Ashanti Drive here in Portland. As I was reeling back there, my darn tablet ran out of memory. Sorry about that. You're going to get 2 videos on this one versus 1. Anyway, we're right where we left off. I'd have to go back and look at the other video. My foot counter resets when I do that. But we're about, we pulled back probably about 100 feet from where I stopped, or close to it. So I'm going to go locate right here. This appears to be the secondary cleanout access. Alrighty, so there's a house just, the house adjacent to this one that's immediately, just 30, 40 feet away. Right in the driveway skirt of their house, or their driveway, you'll see a green valve cover cap. There is a cleanout underneath it. I'm not entirely sure if that's actually for this house though, or for that home in particular. The reason I say that is that where I'm locating is relatively in line with that, but we're sitting about 4 to 5 feet adjacent to it. So when I look into it, it does 90 towards the roadway. So I'll drop into it here when I get all the way back in, and everything we'll see. But that might very well be a clean out for the neighboring home. Typically speaking, a clean out is going to reside directly over top the sewer line or very close to it. This one's off by quite a bit, but it is relatively in line with it. And sometimes that's done to help ensure that no one asphalts over the top of the cleanout, which is good forethought if that was the reason behind it. That I was preempting you earlier. A lot of these flag lot lines, the cleanouts will be in the asphalt driveway, and then when someone redoes the asphalt, they'll just pave right over the top of them. It's very, very common. So that might be the reason why they offset it to the side like that. So very minor standing water there. All right up on the report, you've got standing water throughout the line sporadically. The stuff I'm mostly going to focus on is towards the start of the line, where it appears we've got some joints that might be open to the ground. And this is very, very par for the course with lines this length. The bellies throughout this thing are frequent enough that, and on to boot, until we get further back in here, most of these bellies are rinky-dink tiny little things. They're like 1/16, quarter of an inch of water, very minor stuff. Those are not the kind of bellies that typically run down on repairs, even on shorter lines. So this is more significant in here. You've got right around an inch or so. That water line is just over the top of my camera lens. You've got your thickest buildup here going up toward the top of the pipe in this location here. None of the stuff on the top of the pipe and or sidewalls is outrageously thick, but it's certainly thicker in that location than the rest of the line. That's just because of the depth of the water you have there. There's more resistance going through that area. So, and as it relates to bellies in smooth plastic pipe, and especially lines this length, I tend to focus on the stuff that's close proximity to the home, that's more likely to actually result in some kind of sewer event. That joint there is a little bit out of whack, but that one appears to be sealed up there. When we get closer in at that joint, kind of pay attention to what the grease buildup in the line looks like. It's kind of that yellow tannish stuff you're seeing. And when you get to this spot here, there's a little bit of stuff stuck to the pipe edge. It's a hard one. It's a really hard one. You've got some substance at the top of the pipe there that's kind of leading away from that joint. And we do have some film across the top of the pipe there that indicates there may have been a backup in the past. It's a fairly thin film of it, but it is there nonetheless. And it precedes the joint too. So if I were to wager a guess, the only spot in this line that's actually potentially seen a problem is that belly we just went through there a moment ago that had about 1 inch of water in it. Well, I'm pulling back here, though, to see where the start of this is. And I myself, I don't do repair work. These are often ones that repair guys have to come out and take a look at to see how it needs to be done. If you see right here, this is where the backup made it to. Right now, my camera's upside down. That substance on the bottom of the screen right now is actually the top of the pipe there. The film stops here. So the head pressure was able to get that blockage to break loose at that point right there. That's as far back as that made it. And so that's the other thing I was getting at. When you start getting out a long distance on these lines like this, you know, let's say you theoretically develop a blockage out at 150, 200 feet, the amount of head pressure that develops filling up that much sewer pipe is extreme. There are very few blockages that can withstand that much water weight sitting on them, unless it is made out of just tons and tons of improper items like paper towels. So the further out you get, the least concerning a lot of these issues become. This one, though, is a little more concerning because I do see evidence that that some kind of event did occur here. So, and a lot of what you know causes these things to either act up or not act up really comes down to the homeowner and how the line's treated. You get a long enough section of pipe, though, with standing water, and it can sometimes be tricky to keep buildup and everything at a complete minimum, even when you're treating the line properly. But these folks have done a pretty darn good job. Sometimes it takes a storm of events. You know, you get kids in the house wadding up a whole bunch of balls of toilet paper, and that's what finishes the job, and it's enough to cause a blockage to occur. So anyway, I'm going to push back out here to the end of that standing water area. This is the spot here in particular I am going to recommend a fix on. When I take a second look at this joint here, I am not certain that joint's open to the ground, but there is a different color of brown there, right where that separated joint meets up with where it looks almost flush again towards the bottom of the pipe. The color changes to a darker brown color that looks more indicative of dirt. Where grease has kind of a tan yellowish color to it, you can see that in the flow line there. This is one of those lines that a repair guy really has to come out and do some locating and whatnot to figure out how best to do it. Sometimes they can repair the exact dimensions of the belly. Sometimes they have to overshoot it in order to try and earn as much grade back as they can. All right, as I'm locating here, I'm hoping some of this I can actually, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to put paint down on the ground hardly anywhere here. So as you approach where this property meets up with the one directly next door to it, if you look at kind of the sidewalk area where a sidewalk would typically be, you're going to see kind of a little concrete framed in spot there with some dirt and gravel in the middle of it. We're sitting very, very close to that spot right now, or where we were just located there. About 6 foot 8 inches deep. There's so much water on the ground. We're having a very heavy rainstorm today that I can't put paint down. I'm just spraying directly into a puddle. But I am at about 6 foot 8 inches deep there, and that is under asphalt at that point. So anyway, this is what I'm going to recommend some fixes on here, but in order to do this properly, locates wise, and get a bid, you're going to have a repair company out come and assess this. You know, the line had a lot of slope and grade to it. It wouldn't be quite as tricky, but this is a very flat property, and tolerances are very, very tight. Anyway, from that belly there, it appears some kind of blockage has occurred at some point in the past that led to a backup. This one I might be able to actually locate here. All right, same issue here in the driveway, but I'm getting closer to 6 foot 10 there where that joint's at. Anyway, that initial area of standing water there is the more concerning part. Well, I do see evidence of a past backup. I'm not seeing a lot of evidence of recurring backups happening over and over again. Otherwise, you would expect the buildup to be thicker. So, and that joint there that is somewhat offset, it's really not doing anything to affect functionality. The way that the lip is out on that, it's at the top of the pipe. It's not really doing anything to affect flow. My concern about it is from a longevity standpoint. And the line's clean enough right now, it's really difficult to tell if that substance, that little bit of darker brown color there is dirt, or if it's some other substance that's gone down the line that rubbed against that joint. As you can imagine, human waste has a darker brown color to it, and that can occur from that. So anyway, at the least what I recommend doing here, and I think it's a fair compromise, would be to hydrojet the sewer line, clean it out completely, get it back down to base, Again, there's not an outrageous sum of buildup in here to begin with, but I think that's a fair compromise if repairs don't happen. That way, when you go to rescope a year from now to kind of get a baseline for how the line's handling the new homeowners' living habits, you're looking at purely new stuff. You're not getting a compilation of old and new put together. And then from that point, you can kind of decide whether or not or how frequently you need to be doing maintenance jetting. You know, for instance, the way these people are living right now, the buildup in here is light enough. This is not a situation where I'd be recommending constant maintenance cleaning. There's buildup in there, but it's really not terribly significant as it sits. You know, it might get close to that point a few years from now, the way these folks are living. But just so you're be aware of that, as it sits right now, not an outrageous level of buildup. There's just enough in there that I can tell some kind of event happened. But I'm not seeing signs of it occurring over and over and over again. So, anyhow, as far as just purely flow goes right now, the line is functioning out to at least 206 feet. It's not functioning perfectly, but it sits right now with the lack of any significant major buildup in the line, it is functioning adequately. Obviously, you can do a great deal as a homeowner to help keep it that way, and that's by treating the line gently as it sits. I am going to recommend some repairs there on that area of standing water, as well as the joint that's offset. You know, that's about the only spot in the line where I'm seeing any evidence of an actual backup or blockage occurring. You know, that part of that is, you know, I've got to see it or call it how I see it, and that's what I'm seeing there. So that doesn't mean that you can't live with this thing and keep it functioning, but it is a higher risk point there. It's a little closer in, and I do see that it's caused an issue before. So if repairs do occur, make sure you rescope the line to check the work, and you want to do that after the trench is closed, not beforehand, or you're not going to catch any settling problems that occur. If you do any drain cleaning, I also recommend rescoping to check the work, make sure it was thoroughly cleaned out. I'm gonna move up to that other clean out here. We're gonna take a whack at it and see if we drop into the existing line. It's a tricky one to tell in general, being that you could theoretically have one of two homes tied to it. So I'm gonna kind of go based off of the debris evidence of the line and see if it looks similar. And I'll also locate to make sure it lines up with what we've been currently seeing and where we've been locating at.